Welcome to GouldFish on Games, where today we're going to be checking out the ninja that's quicker than the Flash, sharper than the 7th Samurai, he's the interstellar cosmos dweller, and he's definitely not an ant. He is, of course, Zool. Initially released on the Amiga in 1992, it was developed and published by Gremlin Graphics. After that initial release, it hit multiple platforms, including what I have here, with the PC, CD32 and Mega Drive. But on top of that, it also hit the Snes, Gameboy, Master System, Game Gear, Atari ST and the Acorn Archimedes. The initial box was full of feelies, which have long since been felt and used. But what has remained is the important and well-thumbed code wheel, which I'm sure we will see again soon, and a manual, which gives the story in a comic book form from a very aged looking Zool, as well as the basic controls and input for the game. Later console releases got this very snazzy animated intro. But the Amiga version just came on 2 floppy disks, which were absolutely jam-packed full of gameplay. Now the extras that I mentioned was this large A1 poster, which was on my wall for many years, as well as a set of stickers that used to adorn everything that I owned. And on top of that, they even gave you a Chubba Chub lolly. Yes, that's right, this is another 90s Amiga game that has a tie-in with a snacks company, but this one might be the first. And let's start the game, and god damn it, it's copy protection time. And with this one you had to match the top and bottom half of Zool to what was on the screen, and then also look up the number that it indicated. Now this was actually quite difficult because it was dark reflective ink on a black background, which made it really difficult to make out. And then you gotta hope that the number itself would actually line up with the hole. Amazingly, the original floppy disk version for PC also had the exact same copy protection, but they dropped it on the later CD-ROM releases. And after a very loud and ear-splitting bit of music, we're ready to play. The various versions of the game mostly have a common HUD, but it does move around a little bit, and it will typically show your score, your collection percentage, you know we're going to have to return to this one in a bit, how much health you have out of a maximum of 3 hearts, the direction of the exit, as well as how much time you've got left and how many lives are remaining. As hinted by the collection percentage, this is a European style collect 'em up, as you'll have to find a set amount of collectibles in the level before the exit will open up. But it's more than possible you'll find the exit first, but not have enough, so you'll have to backtrack to collect more. Thankfully, killing enemies typically drops you items, so you can actually grind your way to the amount needed. This amount can be changed by switching the difficulty levels on the options screen. This equated to 25, 50 and 75% based on the easy, normal and hard difficulty settings. There were also a few other options here, like turning off inertia if you wanted Zool to stop instantly, and being able to set the speed of the game or the amount it continues if you wanted to make the game easier or harder. You also got the option to select sound effects or music, which was way too typical for Amiga games, but what wasn't normal was having to choose the track you wanted to listen to for the entire game, as for some reason they didn't create a track per world. Zool launched with 6 worlds, each having 3 levels. This was expanded on with later releases, with some getting more levels and others getting new worlds. And these worlds were as varied and as unique as only a 90s Amiga platformer could be. We start with Sweetie World, as if you're going to show off your sponsorship deal, you're going to have to do it on your first set of levels. Though I'm not entirely sure they thought this through, as you get to destroy the Chubba Chub logos to get more of the collectibles. From here we go to the music world, which is actually one of the more creative ones, as it has a fully working piano which actually forms part of the core puzzle on one of the levels. And there's even this bell that you get to use as a shield. And to balance out all that sugar that we saw earlier, we get Fruit World, where vegans would have a real problem as most of these veggies have faces and teeth that they'll use to try and eat you. This is followed by Tool World, that is full of sharp implements that we really could have done with on that last world. But be careful, as these will come out the walls to get you as you're trying to navigate some of the more complex mazes. But it seems all those tools were put to good use, as next up we have Toy World, where tanks will try to shoot at you, but it seems even heavy armour is no protection against a ninja with a sword. And finally we arrive at where else but a fairground that has not only killer coconuts but also a fully working arcade machine where you get the opportunity to play with yourself in what might be the birth of the Infinite Runner. Thanks a lot, Zool. Amazingly, it seems at one point there was actually a Zool arcade machine in the works. It was shown off in the TV show Bad Influence, but as far as I can tell it never came out. There seems to be only one screenshot of the game itself, and that comes to us via the Gremlin archive, where we can see Zool sporting a new, more detailed look, which was actually used in the later DOS port of Zool 2. The 16-bit consoles got themselves a brand new world in the form of Desert World. There is a surprisingly large amount of colour for a desert world, but it is full of these deadly, poison-spitting enemies that you'll have to avoid. On top of all this, there's also the hidden bonus levels, which have different ways of being accessed, and when you find one you're in for a wild ride, as these are actually a set of shoot 'em ups, where you get to guide Zool's ship around what looks like the inside of a person, with lots of weird looking backgrounds, enemies and power-ups for you to collect. Being a ninja, he has a few moves at his disposal, from being able to shoot fireballs out of his fists, to be able to punch walls, and those power swords that you saw in the box comes into play when you do a spinning attack when you jump. He also has the ability to grab hold of walls, and in the console edition he managed to gain the ability to climb them as well, where on the Amiga you had to use jumps to get yourself up. He can also grab hold of cables that hang from the ceiling. But it doesn't end there, as there's a number of power-ups for you to collect, such as the Shadow Clone, that will give you a trailing second Zool that will double your attack power. There's a screen clearing bomb or even a jump booster. But along with that lot, there's also the typical invulnerability and bonus time. And you will need all of these, as the baddies have a nasty habit of respawning, which can be a real pain when you're trying to get up a wall and they keep jumping in. But it can also aid you in trying to hit that all-important percentage target. And when you die when playing, you are fortunate that there are various checkpoints, but oddly, these have to be activated by punching them. They start off being a simple signpost, but evolve to match the levels, so you'll need to be on the lookout for them as they might blend in. As on the Fruit World, it'll look like a set of bananas, and the DIY world is a plank with a nail in it. Every 3 levels you'll fight a boss, but even then you can't get away from that all important percentage. It's more than possible that you'll beat the boss and then still have to backtrack to get more collectibles so you could actually complete the level. And it's not like these bosses are a pushover either, these really are bullet sponges, so you will be thankful for the fact that they are pretty big and easy to hit. On top of the additional world that the console versions got, they also received reworked level layouts. So players who grew up with the computer versions will find something new on the consoles, and vice versa. There was time to do this because amazingly the console release came out in late 1993. Almost a year and a half after the original release, and even after Zool 2 had hit the shelves for the Amiga. This goes some way to explaining why Zool had suddenly gotten some of his updated moves that arrived in the sequel. Even the 8-bits got represented with unique versions for the Master System and Game Gear. Now the graphics do look a bit squashed to make it fit on the machine, but it's not too bad a version all in all. And it even showed up on the humble Gameboy, which unfortunately lost most of its speed. Zool was one of those games, either you loved it or you hated it. If you can't tell, I'm a massive fan, and enjoyed it and the sequel Zool 2 massively. So why don't you give it a go, as there's loads of platforms to choose from. And until next time, I've been the GouldFish, that was the ninja from the Nth Dimension, and this was GouldFish on Games. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it with a cola flavoured Chubba Chub lolly. And if you did, please consider liking, subscribing and sharing. All that great stuff that helps these small channels like mine grow.